Somebody that is a proud American and a proud observant Jew is a friend of mine, attorney, author, political commentator, and film critic, Debbie Schlussel. Debbie, it is great to talk with you again. I've missed you.
Thank you. I missed you too. Great to be back. Thanks.
What are you doing for Independence Day? Anything?
I'm gonna go to neighborhood fireworks show and just reflect on how lucky I am super lucky because my grandparents were Holocaust survivors and they were lucky to survive. They were lucky to come to America. I'm so lucky when I think of all the different stories of how on both sides of my family they came to America. I think about how lucky I am, and I'm going to reflect on that.
That's wonderful.
Hey, so lucky to be here, in America.
I think, well, first of all, we all are. Everybody that's here, however we got here, we're all lucky, and it's great that you are so appreciative of that. Do you keep kosher?
I do.
So my sister-in-law is, she keeps kosher. She's an observant Jew. Do you have any suggestions for really, really good-tasting kosher barbecue items? And can those be prepared on a grill if they're in a separate area from the non-kosher food? Like, can you throw tin foil on there and then have the kosher meats in the separate section of the grill?
When I went to summer camp as a kid, they would put my kosher food in the aluminum foil. And as long as it was wrapped in aluminum foil and didn't touch anything, including the grill or the other meats, it was all good.
Okay, and so any specific recommendations? Are you a Hebrew National gal, or do you like other stuff? What do you like?
People who keep kosher, I hate to say this, but we really don't trust the kashrut or the kosherness of Hebrew National. So I think the hot dogs that I use, I rarely have hot dogs. And I go to my friend's house and they grill. And I think they have, I don't know what is the name of the brand.
What do you like? If you go to a barbecue on Monday, because I am entertaining my sister-in-law on Sunday, and I want to go with the Debbie Schlussel recommendation of a kosher barbecue item that will resonate with her. What do you enjoy? What's if you had your druthers, you could have anything. What would you pay?
I would say either a kosher ribs. Or not from a pig, of course, or I would say hot dogs or a burger. A steak is good, but I think for the 4th of July, for Independence Day, I like a hot dog or a burger. That's what my friends usually make for us.
All right. Well, hey, I want to talk movies with you in just a moment, but want to get your take because you are an accomplished attorney on this decision we learned about yesterday from the Supreme Court of them stripping the federal government of this, what they call a crucial tool to control pollution. President Biden has vowed to press forward with his climate agenda after this decision, and he says that it risks damaging our nation's ability to keep our air clean. Putting aside the policy implications, what's your view on the legality here? It was a 6-3 decision with the court's 3 liberal justices dissenting. What was your take on this, Debbie?
Well, listen, I think that this whole climate change stuff has gone crazy. And I think, listen, these justices are political. They're not just people who think about the law. They are political. And we can see that in the way they vote on with the divide. And, I obviously side with the conservative justices. And I side with them for one main reason, and that is big government. We need to get back to limited constitutional government and what the founding fathers thought at the time. And I was just listening today to a quote from Amy Coney Barrett of what she said during her confirmation, and she was talking about how she is an originalist, and she's thinking back to what the founding fathers thought at the time and how judges should not be legislating, and that includes on issues of so-called climate change. This is big government at work when they're trying to do these things, and it's bad for business. We already have seen what these measures that Joe Biden has taken on everything having to do with so-called climate change, what it does with the price of gas. I don't know what the price of gas in New York is, but I can tell you here it's in some places $5, in some places it's almost $6. At some point, you have to talk about saving the country, saving the economy, not quote unquote saving the planet when it's not going to make a difference. They found that most of these so-called climate change measures, even if we were to do everything, even if the whole world were to do it, which they aren't, because basically we're subsidizing China's pollution when we sacrifice doing these kinds of things. Even if the whole world would do it, the temperature degree, we think, we don't even know, might stay down, if we're lucky, a fraction of a degree or at most a full degree. And that is speculation. So I think they did the right thing here. I don't think, by the way, they did the right thing on the remain in Mexico policy, though. And that one I'm very angry about. The conservatives did not vote, all of them, with the conservative majority, and they remained the minority on that one.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of those areas, and I haven't read the opinion, and I don't pretend to have your legal expertise, but I think that might be one of those areas where being a conservative legally may not lead to the same result as being a conservative politically, because if you're a conservative legally and you recognize the judicial restraint and that elected officials should be making policy, maybe you recognize that is something that the president and those agencies should be doing. But look, I'm not pleased with it either, the policy implications, even if the legal reasoning is sound. Debbie, I want to talk movies with you because it's going to be raining a good portion of the day tomorrow, and a lot of folks may be looking for something good to see. First, I'm sure by now you have seen the new Top Gun movie. What was your take on that?
I don't share the take of most people on this. I did not care for it. I thought it was basically rehashed the exact same story as the original. I think the original, by the way, while I liked it as a kid, if you rewatch it now, it's kind of overrated. They refused in the original to name who the enemy was that we were fighting with these, fighter pilots. And then they refuse to name it now. In this movie, there is this whitewashed enemy that has nuclear weapons hidden like underneath the ground between mountains that we're supposed to destroy, which is clearly in real life Iran. And they would not say who the country is in the movie. And they did this specifically because they did not want to offend any country. And they also changed things in the movie so that they would not offend China, which was a big financier of this movie. So I was not such a big fan of it. It was okay. It was not a great movie.
Did you see it in theaters or did you see it on a screen, like a TV screen or something?
I saw it in the theater. And one other thing, Tom Cruise is going to be 60 years old, I think, on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
How many 60-year-old fighter pilots are there in our military? There just aren't. It's just baloney.
That's true. I can't argue with that. But were you impressed? At least one of the things that I heard is that this is a film that's really meant to be seen in theaters because of the grandeur of the airplanes and the fight sequences and the jets. Did you find that? Were you impressed with that, the production value?
Oh, definitely. Listen, this movie, they spent a lot of money on this movie. And definitely I was impressed with that. And definitely that is something you want to see on the big screen. And there are a few movies that I saw recently that I think, the good ones anyway, you would want to see it on the big screen. It's better to go to the theater for a lot of things.
All right. Now, the other film that everybody's talking about, a lot of people may be venturing back to the theaters for the first time. A lot of people still a little gun-shy over COVID or whatever else. But now that a lot of theaters, at least in our area, are relaxing vaccine restrictions, a lot of people might be going back to theaters for the first time. Film that's gotten a lot of buzz is this Baz Luhrmann film, Elvis. Before we get your take on the film, are you an Elvis fan, Debbie?
I am an Elvis fan. I always have been. And by the way, so you were mentioning that I'm Jewish, and we know that there's a large Jewish population where your show airs in New York City, and I know in the beyond where everybody can hear you. And Elvis as you may or may not know, he was Jewish all the way through to his great 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 grandmother, and he identified as such quietly. And when his mother died, he had a gravestone for her that had a cross in one corner and a Jewish star in the other corner. And finally, a year or two ago, Graceland started embracing this, and they put the gravestone back out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's great. I knew the Jewish history. I didn't know what Graceland was doing there. All right. So, how is the film?
So I did not care for this movie. I was really underwhelmed. First of all, it's way too long. Secondly, it's very cartoonish. Third, they tried to wokeify the Elvis story. And beyond that, it really should be called the Colonel Tom Parker story with Elvis sort of as a sideshow. And Colonel Tom Parker is played by Tom Hanks with very obvious cartoonish prosthetics on his face and his neck, and it's not serious to me. And it's very herky jerky, goes backward and forward, and they constantly remind you of their point that Elvis stole his act and his songs from Black Americans, and this is something I've heard since I was a kid. And they show this woman named Big Mama, who in real life sang, I think she's saying Jailhouse Rock. I know she's saying That's All Right Mama. And she sang some other songs that he sang. Well, you know what? She did not write those songs. And some of the other songs that he sang that other blacks wrote or was saying, they did not write those songs. And you know what? Whitney Houston did not write "I Will Always Love You." Can I say that she culturally appropriated from a white singer?
Right, for Dolly Parton, right?
Yeah. You know, and I could give a lot of examples where black singers covered songs first written or first sung by white people. I don't think it means they stole anything. They just did something with their own style.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't care for that. I also thought the guy who played Elvis just doesn't look like Elvis. He looks more like, at least in the second half of the movie, if Ray Liotta or Wayne Newton got plastic surgery to look like Elvis.
Oh boy! All right, okay. Well, so that's maybe a skip this weekend. All right.
By the way, my favorite Elvis movie I recommend to watch online is Elvis and Nixon. That is a great movie.
Oh, I like that one a lot too. That's the one with Kevin Spacey as Nixon,
Yes.
right? That's a great film. And there's another similar film that depicts the same events, which is not as good, but that is a good one. I like that one a lot too. Hey, there's a horror movie out, or at least a thriller, The Black Phone. What's this about?
I loved this movie. This is actually the better movie of those two that came out last week. And this is a movie that takes place in 1978. It's got a great 70s soundtrack, the 70s clothes, everything. Ethan Hawke plays this guy who is super creepy, who is kidnapping young boys in the area where it takes place. And this one boy gets kidnapped, and he has to try and figure out how to save his life and get away. And his sister is kind of psychic, and she's trying to find him. And it's just a great story. It's very well written from beginning to end. I wasn't bored for a second. Just very tightly written. The one thing I didn't like is the guy that plays the father in the movie, he looks like Charles Manson. And I don't know if that's on purpose or whatever, because she's never thought to be the kidnapper or anything like that. And I looked him up, and in real life, he has played Charles Manson. So that was the only distraction, but it's a great movie. Ethan Hawke's very good. The kids in this movie are spectacular. I recommend it.
All right. Black Phone getting two Debbie Schlussel thumbs up.